see a lot of online discourse about me right now because people don't like the fact that I'm talking about God now, but I used to be a bottle girl. But let me clear up the confusion. That's the whole premise of Christianity, boo. Clock it. That's the whole point of following the Lord. Your life should look different. The Lord takes you out of what you were doing before. He takes you out of your sin. He takes you out of loving your sin. He makes you a new creature, and now you're doing something new. That's called growth.
I'm not against interracial relationships at all if both parties are together with the proper intentions, but this video gives me fetish vibes. Of all the ways to soft launch a relationship, why choose to do it with this trend? Most of the comments were full of praises towards her and applause. The types of comments weren't stereotypical in the sense of somebody showing off an upgrade from an ex. It was more so like, oh my gosh, you did the impossible. I'm really impressed.
Do you guys know the number one outcome or the number one indicator for how children grow up to thrive, whether or not they actually do?
I thought it was the daddy in the house.
Absolutely not.
What's
Believe
that?
it or not, it is the quality of their mother's happiness.
So house cleaning before we get started. For those who've been rocking with me from day one, I appreciate your support. For those who may be new here, coming in or out the door for me, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get it cracking in the comments. Every bit of your engagement absolutely helps promote me into the YouTube algorithm. I thank y'all for the support. Now let's get to it. Drop the video. Let's go.
I see a lot of online discourse about me right now because people don't like the fact that I'm talking about God now, but I used to be a bottle girl. But let me clear up the confusion. That's the whole premise of Christianity, boo. Clock it. That's the whole point of following the Lord. Your life should look different. The Lord takes you out of what you were doing before. He takes you out of your sin. He takes you out of loving your sin. He makes you a new creature, and now you're doing something new. That's called growth. That's what you should be doing. But I'm not surprised at the genuine confusion because so many people see these false examples of Christians who go to the club Saturday night, get drunk, go to church Sunday, and do it all over again the next week. They still love their sin. So many people see these false examples of people that never changed their life to follow the Lord, but they have man of God, woman of God, God first in their Instagram bio, but you do not see a change in their lifestyle at all. So when people actually see someone changing their life to follow the Lord, they're confused. They're not used to it. But I'm also not surprised either because didn't they do the same thing to Paul when he was still Saul, murdering Christians? That man was on his way to go murder more Christians when the Lord stopped him in his tracks, blinded him for 3 days, said, "Why are you persecuting me?" Turned his life around. That man went from a murderer to a preacher. And the Jews were like, ain't this the same man who was murdering Christians? And we know that Paul wrote more than half the New Testament. So I'm not surprised that people are confused, but I'm just clearing up that confusion. If someone says that they follow the Lord and their life does not look different than it is before, you should question that. Don't question when you actually see the change. That's the whole point.
Wait. I'm so confused. So confused. I know her. I've done content on her several times. This is you, right? Right here. This is you.
Older men be like, I don't want older women or women my age because they look this way. And I'd be like, but you're bald. You getting bald. I ain't letting no old nigga suck the life out of me. No, I'm not doing it.
Why?
You want to hoe around in your 20s and your 30s. Now you're 50 and you single because you was hoeing around all around town, community dick. And now you want to get somebody that's younger because they less used. You're used. What about her?
About Cardi B admitting that she
Good for her.
used to
Fuck him.
wait, no, that she used to
Good for her.
drug and
Fuck
rob
'em.
men.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Good for her. Who gives a fuck? They got robbed. They can get that shit back. They had all the money to buy the shit. They can buy it again. We're not even going to start comparing getting drugged and robbed for some fucking watches or some fucking money
What
to
you
getting
mean?
sexually fucking
What you mean?
assaulted. I'm never going to be like, oh, we should be talking about Cardi B when it talks about like all the sexual assault going on. She didn't sexually assault them. People like Trey Songz should be locked up, and Cardi B, good for her. She got some money when she needed it.
I knew who she was. This is Amani Talks, former bottle girl podcaster who said some of the most toxic, ignorant shit I've ever heard in my life. Now she's a reformed 304. Now she's with the Lord, right? Here's the problem. The reason that people are giving you so much shit is because before you found the Lord, you didn't give people grace or empathy, right? You even said that the men Cardi B drugged, robbed, and had a transgender perform essay on was good for them. They deserved it. You said just because Cardi B was down bad and needed money, it was okay for her to do those things. What do you think the Lord thinks about that, huh? Like, I want to know when you people of your ilk have these epiphanies, right? To change your ways. It's always former ex-workers and bottle girls and strippers that are on one extreme side of dysfunctionality, go to the other extreme side of dysfunctionality because you're broken, right? They're broken on the inside. They're not balanced people. So they're going to be on one extreme or the other extreme. It's never balanced. So now she was on the extreme end of 304ness, bottle girl, misandry, calling black men old niggas and all this stuff, right? And now she's on the other extreme of religious fanatical, being a religious zealot. You know, it's like there's no balance with people like this. And the reason people are giving you flack is because it's just a grift. And when this grift doesn't yield any currency, you'll be back to your old ways. You're a chameleon. We see it. You're not fooling anyone. And I'm not going to say people cannot change and I'm going to fault her for wanting to change her life. Bravo, good. If it's in fact a actual change, bravo. But I don't think so. I don't think so. I believe once you're away and you've actually presented that to the public, it's hard to change. It's hard to change. It's not impossible, but it is hard to change. And I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it, I should say. But I believe that time tells all. And we'll see if your recently ways with the Lord is actual who you are, who is actually who you are, or is it just grift? Let's go to the next one.
It's for all the men. You wondering why you single and you keep getting cheated on? Look down.
That's the men you deal with. Like, it always amazes me that women who are like this, not all women are like this by a long shot, but those who are like this, you reduce men down to their sexuality, but don't want the same for yourself. Like, you'll have a problem if a man said the reason you can't keep a relationship is because of what's between your legs. You'll be, and you'll have all the women in the comments, you know, saying that this guy's a misogynist and he objectifies women. But you do quite a bit of objectification yourself. You're reducing men down to their sexuality while they're being cheated on, right? It's not because the woman who's doing the cheating is just a bad person. It's because he's lacking somewhere sexually. This is what y'all do to men. Like, if a man was cheating on a woman and said the same thing, you'd be like, oh, that's just wrong. That's low down. That's not why he cheated. He cheated because that's who he is. But you think when a woman cheats, the justification for it always has to do something with the man. And this is why you're a misandrist. This is why you're probably not in a healthy, whole relationship, because you're a misandrist and you view men as inferior. You view men no more past of their, you view men in a way where it doesn't go past their sexuality and their physicality and what they can do. You're a transactional person and you expect everything to be from a satisfactory point of transactions. If it doesn't satisfy you from your transactional mind, then there's a problem.
I'm not against interracial relationships at all if both parties are together with the proper intentions, but this video gives me fetish vibes. Of all the ways to soft launch a relationship, why choose to do it with this trend? Most of the comments were full of praises towards her and applause. The types of comments weren't stereotypical in the sense of somebody showing off an upgrade from an ex. It was more so like, oh my gosh, you did the impossible. I'm really impressed type of vibes. A lot of media representations of Black men tend to pinpoint their hypermasculinity, athleticism, strength, and their sex appeal. So it makes a lot of sense why people in the comments are literally going feral over this post. However, this media representation can be dangerous because it reinforces narrow ideas of the identity of a Black man, and it promotes the narrative that Black men are desirable explicitly for their physicalities. Racial fetishization is problematic because it denies Black men the freedom to be seen as multifaceted individuals. A Black man's worth resides in so much more than just his physical traits or his race.
Look, I agree with most of what she said, right? Like the fetishizing of a person based on negative stereotypes or positive stereotypes from their racial makeup, right? I agree with her. Like, that's a bad thing to do, but you don't know that's exactly what's going on here. You don't know that. You're all making assumptions, right? And I get it. This trend, I don't care about this trend because I don't frankly care who people choose to date. Date who you want. And I think it's always a troubling thing for me to see that whenever black men do something, it's always put on a microscope. It always has problems. It always has negative undertones. It can never just be, I like black men, who they are, and for what I see them as. It's always, well, this and that and this. But black women literally came up with the swirling term, divesting, pink pill. You don't see any of that, huh? You haven't ran across any of the investment talk, the divestor sphere, the pink pill sphere, the swirling sphere. You've not run across any of that stuff, huh? It's just when you see an Asian woman saying she went black, it's an issue. But I would like to see you make videos about your swirling sisters, your divestment sisters, your pink pill sisters, right? I would love to see a lot of content made about these women and their fetishizing, I should say, of white men, right? I would love to see that because you always find issue when someone holds black men in a light that you don't agree with, which I don't care if people are fetishizing black men or not. If those black men are okay with it, that's on them. That's their cross or burden or axe they'll have to bear. And I get it. You may have black men in your family that are in interracial relationships. I get it. So it may be personal for you, but I would say this to you, young lady. I would look you right in the face and say this. Mind your fucking business. It doesn't matter. People are going to date who they want to date, see who they want to see. And if it fails and if it ends in a way that shows that this person didn't have good intentions to that person when they got into the relationship from the start, then so be it. But making a post, this post, it doesn't do anything. It's not going to change people from doing it. And I get it. You may feel some type of way about it. Fine. Make your content, do what you want, but leave people alone. People are going to date who they want to date. Black men have the responsibility of cleaning up their own ethnic image, which we have done over the past 20 years. And believe it or not, there are other races of women who actually value black men for who we are. End of story. Let's go to the next one.
You guys know the number one outcome or the number one indicator for how children grow up to thrive, whether or not they actually do?
I thought it was the daddy in the house.
Absolutely not.
What's
Believe
that?
it or not, it is the quality of their mother's happiness.
Wow.
Damn.
The quality of their mother's happiness is the number one indicator as to whether or not a child will grow up to thrive. Because if you have a depressed mother, if you have an anxious mother, if you have a mother with post-traumatic stress disorder who is having to disconnect from her own body, she cannot show up to nurture you. She cannot show up to support you. She cannot fully step into that space. And what she will teach you about being in relationships with other people, whether you can trust them, whether you can trust yourself, whether you can actually be committed and connected to somebody and know that they will reciprocate that to you in a healthy way. She teaches you that not through her words, but through her actions.
Look, if your mother has mental issues, mental disabilities, sure, it could scar you. It could cause you to have very hard issues in relationships, right? Dealing with relationships from a healthy standpoint. But that's not what she said. Her first notion on this podcast to indicate if children grow up well-adjusted is their mother's happiness. And happiness is an emotion that no one can control but the person themselves. Like, you cannot facilitate someone's happiness, control their happiness, or even make sure they never experience unhappiness. That comes from within that person themselves. And for a woman to sit up on a podcast and say that a mother's happiness is the number one most important thing in a household, or that household falls completely apart, centers the mother as a deity. Because only from an omnipotent perspective would someone say that the only person in this house happiness that matters the most is the mother's, is a misandrist. And yes, she was soft-spoken and she said it politely, but it's still misandry. It is still misandry. Because there ain't no way in hell you're going to tell me that the mother's happiness, her overall happiness, is the thing that makes everyone in the house well adjusted. When emotions are fleeting, they sway like the wind. A woman can be happy one day, unhappy the next day. Who the hell can keep up with that? And how are you going to make sure that woman never experiences unhappiness if that woman is in fact control of her own happiness? This is nothing more than an attempt to make the woman a deity in the household. That's all this was. The number one outcome, the number one indicator for children to have a well-adjusted outcome is if both parents are healthy and productive in that household. And it has little to do with someone's happiness. The only leeway I'll give her is if the mother is in fact experiencing a mental health crisis. Sure, that is something that definitely needs to be dealt with. But just talking about happiness and mental illness are not synonymous. They're not the same things. Happiness is an emotion. Yes, you can be very unhappy if you have mental illness, but happiness and mental illness do not go hand in hand. And this was nothing more than an attempt to censor the mother as the main factor in children being well adjusted when it's not. And this was an attempt to make single mothers important, like the most important thing for children to be well adjusted. And it's not, it's never going to be. And the numbers don't bear it out, ma'am. I see what you tried to do. I really did see what you were trying to do, but it's not going to work. People are not stupid. We know the data says different. And you can get on this podcast and you can feign that a mother's happiness is the number one factor to determine the outcome of well-adjusted children as much as you like, but the rest of us know it's bullshit. You're welcome. You're welcome. Gentlemen of distinction, we meet again. You're welcome. That's all I got, man. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, get it cracking in the comments. I'll see y'all in the credits. 2 fingers. Peace. Don't be screenshotting my screen, man. If y'all want this, when I reach 500 subs, I'll put up a pay gate for members, and I'll put videos like this on there for members. That's all I got, man. I'll see y'all later, man. I'm stupid. Good night. Like Jesus.